Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. The gala night was like a giant fishbowl. Glittering chandeliers, sparkling gowns, and round, polished smiles swam back and forth. Lucas stood in the middle of the hall, his Windsor knot tied neatly, his handsome face so striking that photographers kept clicking non-stop, just because the light hit his jawline perfectly. He smiled politely, nodded at the right rhythm, yet felt as empty as a drained champagne glass. At 6, he sent a single text to his assistant. "Start the rumor." The assistant called back immediately, voice trembling. "Are you sure, sir?" "Never been more sure," Lucas replied, his tone eerily calm. 5 minutes. The plan was simple. Leak the rumor that Lucas was bankrupt. No documents, no press confirmations, just enough to spread like the smell of fresh bread in a kitchen. Everyone senses it before anyone asks for the recipe. It was, admittedly, a foolish game. But after years of wading through empty compliments, he wanted to know, when money was gone, what would remain? Sophie arrived as the clock nudged 7. She was as dazzling as a jewelry ad. Bare shoulders, diamonds at her throat, smoky eyes. She walked straight to him, hooked her arm through his, her smile memorized to perfection. "Darling, tonight we have to take pictures with the sponsors and the ambassadors' table, too. Please don't talk about your little charity. It's boring." Lucas chuckled. "I'll try to be only a little boring." Music swelled. The host invited the golden couple of the festive season on stage, hundreds of eyes, dozens of phones with cameras ready. Lucas planned to say a few words of thanks, but then someone's phone buzzed, then the next, then another table. Heads dropped, eyes widened. A loud "Oh my God" popped like a lid, slamming shut. The rumor spread faster than the violins. Lucas Vernon had lost everything. Mortgage, the ocean project, emergency board meeting, more exclamation marks, more shock emojis. Those polished smiles twisted into question marks. Sophie froze for a second. She pulled her arm away like she had touched a hot stove. "What is this?" "A breeze," Lucas said, trying to joke. "I'm not joking. Are you bankrupt? If I say no, would you believe me?" Sophie held his gaze for a long beat, then looked around as if measuring the room's temperature. She pressed her lips together, turned to the microphone, and gave the most professional smile of her life. "I'm sorry. I want to announce the cancellation of our engagement because—" She faltered a second, searching. "Because we realize we're not compatible." Not compatible. 2 neat words shut a door in its frame. The front row went silent. The host swallowed hard. The sponsor's logo on the screen suddenly blinked. Someone at the back table clapped softly. The kind of clap from someone who had just dodged trouble. Then the whispers erupted, bubbling like foam. An old friend of Lucas's, who once called him brother, walked up, patted his shoulder with practiced dignity. "Oh, are you all right? Hang in there. Ah, I need to greet the chairman. Catch you later." "Catch you later." Later when? Investor A texted, "Meeting tomorrow." Investor B, "If needed, I'll wait and see." A board member wrote bluntly, "No statements." Lucas' phone buzzed like a panicked cricket. He stared at it a second, then flipped it face down. Sophie had already left the stage. A few reporters chased her, cameras fluttering like startled birds. The poor host then announced the silent auction for the children. The mood was tangled, like a tie knotted backward. Lucas stood still, smiling, faintly smiling because his loyalty test worked too well. Smiling because he was the fool who invented it. Smiling because he didn't know what else to do. He backed away from the spotlight and slipped through the side path into the hallway. The door closed behind him, shutting out music and murmurs with thick wood. The hall was empty, the air conditioning humming evenly. A staff only. Sign hung loosely. The scent of floor wax, lilies from a vase at the far end, and the faint metallic tang of the emergency stairwell lingered. His shoes tapped against the stone floor, sounding lonely. He sat on a leather bench near the exit door, his expensive tux wrinkled at the cuffs, the tie tightened like a noose. He loosened it, inhaled, then inhaled again. Suddenly, he remembered his small college apartment, the old aluminum pot, and a packet of instant noodles on the shelf. Back then, he had 2 things: time and dreams. Now, he had everything except the certainty that someone saw him as a person, not a smiling wallet. The phone kept buzzing. He opened it. A text from his mother. "Are you okay?" He typed, I'm fine. But stop. He wasn't fine. The feeling of being valued in 30 seconds had left a tiny scratch right across his heart. A group chat pinged. Let's meet this weekend, if we're still invited. The parentheses. Long and loose. Like a string ready to slip away. Lucas leaned his head back, staring at the ceiling. A loyalty test. He had sworn never to fall into cheap emotional traps. Yet he had staged an entire theater for one. Maybe he was too confident. Maybe selfish. Maybe just tired. The ballroom door cracked open. Music leaked in, then cut off. A young waiter peeked out, startled to see him, hesitated, then frowned, as if recalling the big news. He bowed quickly and shut the door again. Lucas let out a short laugh. Even the waiter was afraid to get close, like touching bad luck was contagious. In his pocket, a small slip of paper poked his side. He pulled it out. A list of people to photograph with tonight. Sophie had given him earlier. Next to the sponsor's name, she had scribbled in pen. Stand on the left to show the watch. PR loves it. He stared at the slanted writing and suddenly found it hilarious. He folded the paper, shoved it back in, like tucking away an old season. A faint squeak echoed from the hallway's end, like small wheels rolling. The smell of cleaning fluid grew stronger. Lucas tilted his head. No one there. He realized he'd been sitting for 10 minutes and only now noticed how pleasant the scent was. Simple, clean, not trying to prove anything. The phone lit up again. Absolutely no press response from PR. 9. Meeting tomorrow from the CFO. Don't worry. I'm always here from Mom. He replied to her first. I'm fine. I just need some air. He walked to the small window at the end of the hall. Outside, the city glittered like the sky spilled onto the ground. Somewhere far off, sirens wailed. Red and green lights danced. He pressed his forehead to the cool glass, suddenly wishing to vanish from every title. Lucas before the meetings, Lucas before the articles, Lucas before picking the right tie for the wrong person. The staff-only door cracked slightly, a ribbon of yellow light spilling across the tiles. Inside, faint chatter. Someone laughing about something ordinary. Like the vacuum broke again today. So simple, it softened his chest. He sat back down. Hunger struck. A raw hunger no caviar canapé could cure. He pictured a steaming bowl of noodles topped with a sunny-side egg. He wished someone would ask him. Not, "What's your plan for the shareholders?" But "Have you eaten?" Suddenly, a thought flickered, making him chuckle dryly. Maybe next time I should test people by not testing them at all. However, wisdom always comes too late. For now, he was just the man left behind on stage. The ballroom door opened again, and a group of guests passed by, laughing, trailing heavy perfume. They didn't notice him. Good. Lucas stretched his legs and loosened his shoulders. The squeaky wheels drew closer, then stopped. Silence. As soft as soap bubbles. He glanced down at his polished shoes, spotting a thin streak of water shaped like an exclamation point. A janitor's cart stood a few paces away, with a blue bucket, clear spray bottles, and a cheap plastic water bottle forgotten there. Cold light glimmered on the bucket's surface, rippling like background music from another world, far from the ballroom symphony. Lucas swallowed a sigh. In the ballroom, he was breaking news. In this hallway, he was just a tired man. Maybe, for the first time in a long while, he had quiet enough to hear himself, to hear his heartbeat steady, to hear the patient squeak of small wheels rolling without show. He leaned back and closed his eyes for a moment. Tonight, the loyalty test had come to an end. Results. Sophie chose to leave, friends chose silence, partners chose distance, and he chose to sit here in the scent of floor cleaner, where no one demanded he shine. And for the first time, Lucas truly felt lonely, so lonely that only one small, simple thought remained in his mind, untouched by stocks or assets. I wish someone would just ask me, "Are you okay?" At the far end of the hall, the faint scrape of a broom echoed. The night carried on slowly, and somewhere behind that staff-only door, fate was rolling up its sleeves. The hallway was still silent, with only the slow creak of cleaning cartwheels rolling by. Lucas sat slumped, idly twisting the cap of an empty water bottle. His blurred reflection in the glass door looked no different from a gambler who had just been tossed out of a casino. The sound of a broom brushing the floor, swish, swish, broke the quiet. Lucas lifted his head, and for the first time that evening, he saw a face completely unfamiliar in the sea of acquaintances. A young woman in a dark blue janitor's uniform, her hair tied neatly back, held a broom nearly as tall as herself. She paused, stared at him for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. Why are you sitting there like a puppy that's been abandoned? Lucas blinked in surprise. People usually called him a successful young businessman, the white knight of the investment world. No one had ever compared him to a stray dog on the porch. Yet her tone was innocent, not the least bit mocking. He smirked. At least a stray puppy gets sympathy. Me? Not so sure. The girl shrugged, leaned her broom against the wall, and pulled a cheap plastic water bottle from her cart. The kind the hotel reserved for staff. She held it out to him. Drink. You look like you're dehydrated. Lucas accepted it, twisted off the cap. The cool water slid down his parched throat, oddly soothing. He glanced at the smudged label and chuckled. I'm used to drinking the kind with the Snow Mountain logo, but this one tastes better. Of course, the girl replied matter-of-factly, water is all just H2O. Only the label costs more or less. Lucas nearly choked. He had never heard anything so true, yet so funny. He laughed, leaning his head back against the seat, laughing until she frowned at him. Are you okay? I didn't mean to drive you insane. No. Lucas shook his head, wiping at his eyes. It's been a long time since I heard something honest. She put her hands on her hips, tilted her head, assessing him. Seriously, you look sharp as hell. Bet you've got 100 people flattering you every day. Well, yeah, pretty much. Then I get it. You're drunk on compliments now. Even a normal sentence sounds shocking to you. Lucas burst out laughing again. In that moment, he felt an odd sense of relief. No dazzling lights, no hollow applause, just a stranger talking to him like he was a neighbor she'd just bumped into in the elevator. I'm Emma, she said, offering a bright smile along with her hand. I'm a night shift janitor here at the hotel. Lucas, he hesitated, then thought, why introduce himself as a real estate millionaire investor? Instead, he simply said, temporarily unemployed. Emma blinked, then shrugged as if it didn't matter in the slightest. Unemployment's not so bad. At least you don't have to spend all day buried in meetings. Me? Once I finish mopping the hall, I can sit down, listen to music, eat cookies. Lucas almost laughed out loud. Who in the world would compare mopping floors to unemployment? Yet, it didn't sound mocking. Just her perspective. Emma perched on the edge of the bench, just a few handspans away. She tilted her head, meeting his eyes directly. But really, are you okay? You look like you just got kicked in the face. Lucas froze, then gave a soft laugh. You guessed right. I knew it. Guys in tuxedos usually fall into two categories. Either just signed a $100 million deal, or just lost their girlfriend. He raised his brows. You run into this a lot? Sure. I work at a hotel. Every gala night has a few husbands scolded by their wives, a few wives ignored by their husbands, and a few men nursing heartbreak. They all look the same, funny and pitiful. Lucas nodded thoughtfully. Guess I'm in the last category. Congrats. You're officially a member of the Hotel Hallway Heartbreak Club. They both laughed at the same time. The sound echoed through the cold corridor, somehow lifting the heaviness in the air. Lucas leaned back, watching Emma for a long moment. She wasn't wearing makeup, just bright eyes and an honest smile. No probing, no attempt to please, simply caring. Inside him, some quiet string vibrated. He thought, maybe tonight wasn't a complete failure after all. Emma stood, picked up her broom. Well, I have to finish mopping, otherwise my manager will chew me out tomorrow. Yeah, thank you for the water. Don't mention it. Emma turned back, winking. Next time, bring your own bottle. That way, nobody mistakes you for a thirsty, stray dog again. Lucas's mouth fell open before laughter spilled out. The staff-only door closed behind Emma's figure, leaving Lucas alone on the bench. But this time, he didn't feel lonely. Instead, something new stirred inside him. Lightness, warmth, and a flicker of anticipation. And he told himself, Lucas, maybe for the first time in years, you just met someone who doesn't care about your money, and that's the best thing of all. After that night in the hallway, Lucas found himself returning to the hotel more often than necessary. He told his assistant, I need some air. The assistant hesitated before asking, air or someone named Emma? Lucas shot him a glare and pretended to be busy opening his calendar, which was entirely empty. This time, he decided to commit fully to his poor man disguise. The sports car stayed locked away in the underground garage. He hailed a taxi instead, dressed in a plain shirt and a pair of jeans faded nearly white. He had to ask his stylist to scuff and bleach them until they looked authentically worn. The expensive watch was tucked into a drawer, replaced by a scratched plastic one that looked like it had survived a few battles. The mirror reflected a Lucas stripped of his glittering armor, and oddly, he felt lighter. The next evening, Lucas showed up in the staff lobby, carrying 2 sodas from the vending machine. He hadn't even had time to glance around before Emma emerged from the corner, pushing her broom cart, her face bright as a newly replaced light bulb. "Well, look who it is, Mr. Unemployed." Emma waved. "You look even poorer than yesterday." "Progress. Such a professional evaluation." Lucas chuckled, handing her one of the cans. "I've even practiced walking like someone broke. Slow steps. Minimal spending. Walking slowly has nothing to do with money." Emma replied dryly. "That's just tight shoes. Anyway, what are you doing here at this hour? I needed a quiet place to think. Besides," Lucas glanced around, "there's someone here who gives me free water." Emma snorted, wiping down the counter before sitting on the edge of the bench. The two of them sipped soda while the vacuum hummed somewhere in the distance. "So, are you really unemployed?" Emma asked. Not nosy, more like commenting on the weather. "Yeah, for now. I'm considering a career shift." "To what?" "Not sure. I'm good at attending meetings, reading 300-page reports, taking notes without typos. Sounds boring." "It is." Lucas laughed. "Even I'm getting sleepy just saying it." Emma tilted her head. "Well, do you want to learn how to sweep floors? I'll teach you for free. Guaranteed successful career switch. Do I get a diploma? You get a cleaning rag. 100% cotton." They burst out laughing together. The ease between them was startling, as if they'd known each other longer than just one hallway night. In the days that followed, they frequently crossed paths, sometimes by the emergency exit, sometimes in the staff lounge, sometimes in the small courtyard where rugs were left to air out. Each meeting was brief, yet always long enough to leave a lasting impression of a laugh. Once, Lucas tried to carry Emma's water bucket, attempting to prove he was a strong, unemployed man. The bucket slipped, and water splashed everywhere. Emma dodged just in time. Lucas ended up soaked from knees to ankles. "I'm so sorry." Lucas panicked. "I'll clean it up." With what?" Emma handed him the floor squeegee like a wooden sword to a rookie soldier. "Rule number 1. Don't fight the floor. The floor wins. You smooth it gently." "Smooth it?" "Yes. Light, steady, patient." Lucas obeyed, as serious as if he were solving a $1 million equation. Emma folded her arms, smirking. "Not bad. 6 out of 10. "Only 6? You can retake the exam. I'm a tough grader." Lucas laughed. For the first time in years, the golden boy who'd always been praised was actually criticized, and strangely, he enjoyed it. That 6 out of 10 made him want to try again. The staff lounge had a wheezing microwave and a row of rusted lockers. Emma opened her lunchbox, the scent of fried eggs filling the room. Lucas unwrapped a rushed sandwich. "Want a trade?" Emma offered. "My eggs are really good." "I shouldn't." "Oh, come on. You're unemployed and still picky?" Lucas surrendered. One bite of the egg lit up his eyes. "This is delicious." "Of course. The secret's homemade fish sauce. You made it?" "Remember, I bought it from my neighbor. But I did steal her recipe for smiling. Smile first, and everything tastes good after." Lucas nodded, chewing thoughtfully. Emma checked her cracked old phone. "Break's over. I've got to go." She stood, but before leaving, placed a small pack of cookies in his hand. "For when life tastes bland, these will sweeten it a little. Thanks, Queen of the Mop, and your Prince of Empty Pockets." They both laughed again, loud and easy. Sometimes it was only quick text messages. Emma rarely used social media. Her phone was so old, the screen looked like fractured ice. Still, they had saved each other's numbers. In Emma's phone, Lucas was Mr. Unemployed. In Lucas's phone, she was Emma Mop Queen. "Have you eaten?" "Yes." "Did you get enough sleep?" "Enough. Except when the vacuum rebels. I'll bring mints tomorrow to cool it down." Mints won't fix the vacuum, but they'll fix the person holding it. Their tiny exchanges were warm, like an old microwave struggling to heat a meal. One rainy night, lightning flashed beyond the glass doors. Emma hauled rolled-up carpets, her shoulders damp with rain. Lucas stood under the awning, watching. "Do you have a raincoat?" "I do, but it has a hole shaped like a broken heart." Emma said so seriously that Lucas almost believed her. Whose heart? The coat's. That afternoon, Emma sent a short, blunt text. 6 p.m. Supermarket. There's a sale. Lucas stared at the message and burst out laughing. He had received hundreds of emails beginning with "Dear Mr. Lucas," attached to $1 million proposals, but never once had anyone invited him out with a discount sale. He arrived on time, dressed in a wrinkled shirt and old shoes to fit the scene. Emma stood outside the budget supermarket, her hair tied high, wrapped in a worn gray jacket. She waved both hands excitedly. "Hurry up, the discounted noodles are almost gone." Lucas blinked, still trying to process, when Emma grabbed his wrist and dragged him in as if they were running a marathon. The moment they entered, they were swallowed by the throng of shoppers. A glaring sign read, "Instant noodles, 50% off," and right there, a group of housewives were practically sparring over the shelves. Lucas got pulled into the frenzy. His hand had just touched a pack when Emma snatched it away with lightning speed, holding her prize high. "Ha! Fast hands survive. That's cheating." Lucas feigned outrage. "In a supermarket, there's no cheating, only slowpokes." Lucas couldn't hold back his laughter, and soon enough, he grabbed another pack, waving it like a trophy to restore his honor. Emma pouted, but her eyes sparkled with childlike joy. They wandered from aisle to aisle, competing for discounted toilet paper rolls like two mischievous schoolkids. For Lucas, it was the first time he had experienced the chaos of bargain shopping. Exhausting, yes, but oddly thrilling. "Usually, I just make a call, and someone delivers a whole box to my door," he confessed. "Then you've missed out on the glory of winning the last toilet paper roll." Emma lifted her prize high like a golden cup. Lucas laughed so hard that people passing by turned to look. That evening, Emma brought Lucas back to her small apartment. It was on the 3rd floor, with walls chipped in places, old but tidy furniture. On the shelf sat a tiny cactus with a note taped beside it. "Don't you dare die." Lucas's eyes roamed until they stopped at a weathered bookshelf. No finance manuals, only comic books, cookbooks, and a few romance novels. He smiled softly. "Your place. It's really charming. Charming because of that cactus. I've kept it alive for 2 years. It still hasn't abandoned me. Unlike some people." Lucas was silent for a beat, unsure whether to laugh or feel the sting behind her words. But Emma had already spun toward the kitchen, her voice bright. "All right, here's the kitchen. You're helping." They laid out the ingredients: a pack of noodles, a few eggs, water spinach, a bottle of fish sauce. Lucas eyed the sauce warily, taking a step back. "This stuff smells too strong." "The strong smell is the flavor. Just try it." Emma cracked eggs, whisking them quickly in the pan, her movements confident like an artist at work. Lucas was assigned to wash the vegetables. He splashed water everywhere, soaking the counter. "Are you washing the veggies or giving them a bath?" Emma teased. "I want them absolutely clean. If vegetables are absolutely clean, there's nothing left to eat." Lucas froze for a moment, then broke into laughter. Dinner was served on an old wooden table, a plate of fried eggs with fish sauce, stir-fried greens, a simple bowl of soup, and a shared pack of noodles. Lucas sat down, staring at the modest spread with a nervousness he hadn't even felt at 5-star banquets. He picked up a piece of egg and took a bite. The rich, savory flavor flooded his tongue. His eyes widened. "My God, how is it this good?" "It's only good because you're hungry," Emma laughed. "No, it's really good. Better than steak and wine." Emma half believed him, half doubted, but Lucas's sincere gaze made her burst out laughing. After the meal, they leaned against the wall, sharing a soda. Outside, the sounds of traffic drifted faintly through the night. Inside, the little room was peaceful, filled only with their laughter and scraps of small talk. Emma told him about her school days, working countless part-time jobs, getting scolded by customers, wages docked by harsh bosses. Yet her voice carried no bitterness, only a vitality that made Lucas's chest feel lighter. He didn't have to analyze contracts or weigh stocks. All he had to do was nod, laugh, and for once, feel like an ordinary man. "What about you?" Emma asked. "Before you were unemployed, what did you do?" Lucas hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Meetings, endless paperwork. Honestly, boring stuff." "Then unemployment is your blessing," Emma declared with a nod. "Now you can learn a real trade, like frying eggs." Lucas laughed, raising his soda to clink against hers. "Deal." That night, when Lucas left her apartment and stepped down the narrow staircase, he looked up at the starry sky. For the first time in years, his mind wasn't on assets or reputation. He thought only of the taste of fried eggs, Emma's laughter, and the serenity that had settled deep in his bones. Lucas whispered to himself, "Maybe this is the real life I've been missing all along." That morning, the hotel buzzed more than usual because of a major conference. Emma pushed her cleaning cart down the hallway, strands of hair damp with sweat. Lucas, as always, happened to show up, paper coffee cup in hand. By now, he had grown used to waiting for these small, stolen moments, just to see her. They were mid-conversation when Ethan, the receptionist known for his sharp tongue, passed by. He cast Emma a sneering look and smirked. "Make sure you scrub well. If a guest slips, no one's going to blame anyone but the janitor." Emma froze for a second, but quietly continued mopping the floor. Ethan didn't stop, his tone dripping with contempt. "Honestly, people like you are only fit to keep your head down and clean up trash. Don't bother dreaming of looking up." Lucas's grip on his coffee tightened until his knuckles whitened. A single thought struck through him, sharp as ice. Emma's worth more than 10 men like him combined. He wanted to leap up, to throw Ethan's cruelty back in his face. But Emma's calm, steady eyes stopped him. This was her workplace, her territory. If Lucas made a scene, it would only put her in an even harder position. He drew a deep breath, strolling casually toward the reception desk. On the counter sat a messy stack of files. A few invoices bore obvious tampering, numbers rewritten in a different color ink fraud, clear as day. Pretending to search for a brochure, Lucas accidentally let one page slip to the floor, landing just as the manager walked by. "What's this?" The manager bent down, frowning. "Why have the numbers been altered so blatantly?" Ethan, startled, his face draining of color. Must be a mistake." "A mistake?" The manager's voice hardened. "I'll be reviewing every file. If I find evidence of fraud, you're aware of the consequences." The air around them stirred with murmurs. Ethan stammered before retreating, stripped of his earlier arrogance. Meanwhile, Emma continued mopping with quiet patience, as if nothing had happened. A colleague approached and patted her shoulder. "Don't let him get to you, Emma. Honestly, everyone knows you work harder than most here." A few others nodded in agreement. For the first time, Emma was defended openly. From the corner, Lucas sipped his coffee, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. No need for boasting or shouting. One subtle touch had been enough to let the truth reveal itself. By late afternoon, Emma found him in the back courtyard. She planted her hands on her hips, her gaze both amused and suspicious. "Hey, did you arrange something?" "What do you mean?" "I just dropped a piece of paper, dropped it at the perfect time, in the perfect place." "What a coincidence." "Lucas Schugge, feining innocence." "Pure luck." "You're good at these little mysteries, aren't you?" Her words sounded like reproach, but her lips curved into a smile. She knew he had stood up for her, but in a way that hadn't embarrassed her. Instead, he'd made sure her colleagues saw her with respect. They sat together on the back steps, sharing the pack of cookies Emma had brought. "You're not upset about what Ethan said?" Lucas asked quietly. "I'm used to it," Emma shrugged. "But today was different. Today, for the first time, someone spoke up on my behalf." Lucas held her gaze for a long moment, then smiled. "Because you deserve it." Emma rolled her eyes, though her tone carried a teasing lilt. "You sound like some lawyer making a defense speech. Maybe I studied law once upon a time. Then you must have gone unemployed for losing a case." Lucas laughed, feeling an unexpected lightness settle in. In that moment, he realized something. To stand by someone didn't always mean throwing money or raising your voice. Sometimes, the smallest act was enough to let them know they weren't alone. When Lucas finally left the hotel, the sunset stretched long across the pavement. His thoughts were clear. Emma was not just a janitor, not just what others chose to see. She was strong, kind, a character worth more than 10 Ethans combined. And somehow, Lucas knew with certainty he would want to keep standing on her side, not just today, but for many days to come. That weekend, Emma sent Lucas another of her blunt little texts, 3 p.m. away. M. Community Center. Coming? Lucas was sitting alone in his office, a thick stack of reports spread in front of him. Yet, he had no desire to read a single page. He glanced at the message, and a smile tugged at his lips. "I'm coming," he replied without hesitation. The community center stood in an old neighborhood, its walls streaked with peeling paint, the iron gate groaning on its hinges. Inside, a wide room held worn wooden desks and chairs, the walls decorated with children's crayon drawings in every color. Laughter spilled from every corner. Emma greeted him with just a nod. No ceremony, no introductions before plunging straight into the cluster of kids waiting for her. Lucas lingered awkwardly. A tourist lost in the wrong city. "Why are you standing there?" Emma called. "Roll up your sleeves and get in here." Startled, Lucas quickly shrugged off his jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves. He lowered himself onto a tiny chair, feeling like a giant awkwardly squeezed into a doll's classroom. A little boy shoved a red crayon into his hand. "Uncle, color this for me." Lucas glanced down at the paper. A house, a sun, a tree. Easy, he thought. But after only a few strokes, his sun was already bleeding past the lines, smudging into a lopsided mess. "Uncle colors so bad," the kid shrieked with laughter. Flushing, Lucas put on a stern face. "This is abstract art, you know. What kind of art looks like a tomato?" A little girl piped up, sending the whole group into hysterics. From across the room, Emma burst out laughing. For the first time, she saw Lucas. Always so polished, so composed, flustered like a schoolboy. After coloring time, Emma split the children into groups for spelling practice. Lucas was assigned the role of reader. Holding up the alphabet chart, he enunciated slowly, A, B, C. The children echoed him. But every time they reached Q, they stretched it into a dramatic coup. Turning the class into a choir of mischief, Lucas dropped his head into his hands while Emma laughed so hard she nearly doubled over. "What kind of teaching is that?" she teased. "I'm an expert in contracts, not the ABCs," Lucas protested. A little girl pointed her tiny finger at the last letter. "Uncle, read this one." "Ted." "Wrong. It's Z." The kids chorused. Lucas raised both hands in defeat, and the room erupted into laughter. During break, Emma brought out a box of cookies. The children swarmed, each trying to grab the best piece. Lucas reached for one, too, only to be warned by a boy half his size. "You're too big. If you eat too much, there won't be any left for us." "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just take one," Lucas said solemnly. "One? The biggest one?" The kids shouted together. Lucas collapsed dramatically against the desk, pretending to be defeated, and the children howled with laughter. Emma shook her head, but her heart warmed. Lucas didn't act like some untouchable adult. He didn't mind making a fool of himself if it meant the children were happy, and that kind of laughter lit up the whole room. When the session ended, Emma and Lucas stacked the chairs and tables. She sat on the steps, drinking from her water bottle, and sighed. "I've been teaching here for 3 years. No pay, just a few snacks of support, but I can't walk away." "Because you care about them?" Lucas asked softly. "Yes. Some of their parents are too busy. Some can't afford tutoring. I think that if these kids can read and write, maybe they'll have a chance to open another door." Lucas stayed silent. He looked around at the shabby classroom, the crooked letters on the board, then back at Emma. In her bright eyes, he saw something he had never once glimpsed among the wealthy circle he lived in, a warmth and resolve that no money could measure. "What do you think?" Emma asked. Lucas smiled, shaking his head. "I think I turned the sun into a tomato." Emma burst into laughter, tilting her head toward him. "That's exactly why they liked you. They don't need someone perfect, just a big guy willing to play along." Lucas froze. Her playful words struck deeper than she realized. For so long, he had been labeled the success, the millionaire, the big partner. No one had ever called him by that simple name. On the way home, Emma walked beside him, swinging her small grocery bag. Lucas, for the first time, didn't feel like he was walking in the shoes of a CEO or a wealthy man. He was simply a guy who had just been laughed at by a group of children, and strangely, it felt better than any boardroom victory. Looking up at the fiery red sky, Lucas thought, maybe being called the big funny uncle is worth more than all the titles I've ever had. The summer rain came suddenly, as if someone in the sky had just remembered, "Oh, I forgot to water the plants today." On the sidewalk outside the community center, people scattered, rushing for cover. Lucas and Emma stood under a small awning, the downpour crashing in front of them. Icy droplets spraying their hands. Emma shivered, her thin janitor's uniform already damp. Lucas said nothing. He simply slipped off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "Hey, what are you doing?" Emma looked up, eyes wide. "Keeping you dry, but you'll get soaked." "It's fine. I've got a naturally waterproof shirt." Lucas smirked, adding just enough humor to soften the gesture. Emma let out a small laugh, but her chest tightened strangely. The warmth from his jacket seeped through her skin, warmer than any umbrella could ever be. A sudden slip on the wet tiles made Emma stumble. Lucas caught her instinctively, and in that instant, she fell neatly into his arms. The pounding rain swallowed all other sound, leaving only the frantic rhythm of Emma's heart. The distance between them vanished. Their breaths mingled. Lucas looked down into her flushed face, and Emma looked up, meeting his gaze deep, steady, carrying something unspoken. The moment stretched, lasting longer than it should have, long enough for both of them to forget the storm raging outside. "Sorry," Emma murmured, pushing gently away, her eyes darting aside. "It's all right." Lucas stepped back too, though the light in his eyes lingered, impossible to hide. That evening, they took shelter in a small cafe until the rain eased. Golden light spilled over the wooden tables, wrapping the place in warmth. Emma cupped a mug of hot cocoa, pressing her hands against it to chase away the chill. Lucas sat across from her, his gaze unconsciously following her every small movement. "What are you staring at?" Emma blinked. "At the cup." "The cup? There's nothing special about it." "True, but when someone's holding it, it becomes special." Emma laughed softly, though her heart skipped a beat. Quickly, she steered the conversation toward the children at the community center, trying to mask her fluster. Lucas listened, nodding, occasionally tossing in a teasing remark that made Emma giggle. Her laughter, mingling with the cozy hum of the cafe, lifted the heaviness from his chest like it had never existed. In the days that followed, those sparks of something more appeared more and more often. One morning, Lucas came to help Emma tidy the storage room. As she reached up for a box, it slipped, and Lucas caught it just in time, his body brushing close behind her. In that brief instant, Emma could hear her heartbeat loud in her ears. Another time, she picked up the pen Lucas had left behind. When she handed it back, their fingers brushed for only a second, yet enough to make them both freeze. Each time their eyes met, time seemed to pause, stealing an extra beat from the clock. But whenever the line between them threatened to blur, both would retreat back to friends. Emma was afraid of fooling herself. Lucas, unemployed or not, still carried an aura of a man from another world. She feared that when the truth surfaced, these fragile feelings would vanish like mist. Lucas was afraid, too afraid that confessing meant revealing who he truly was. Lucas Vernon, the millionaire who had staged that ridiculous bankruptcy test, and if she knew, would Emma still look at him the same way? So, they stayed silent, hiding their hearts behind jokes and fleeting touches. One afternoon, as they parted ways at the center's door, Emma teased, "You know what? You remind me of an umbrella, because I shield you from the rain. No, because you show up when I need you, then fold back up, never really saying what you mean." Lucas chuckled, though something stirred in his eyes. He wanted to say, "I don't want to be just an umbrella. I want to be your whole sky." But instead, he replied, "Then next time, I'll open before the rain falls." Emma nodded softly, lips curving, but her heart beat faster all the same. That night, Lucas sat in his luxury apartment, staring at the city lights. His laptop glowed with unanswered emails, but his mind was elsewhere on Emma, wrapped in his jacket, her bright eyes in the rain. The accidental fall into his arms, he whispered to himself, "Maybe it's time to face the truth, but not yet. Not tonight." And so, their hearts kept playing the delicate game of boundaries, friends on the surface, but beating with a rhythm that betrayed them. A quiet affection had begun to take root, nameless, unspoken. Yet, in every glance that lingered too long, in every shy smile that lingered too sweet, it was already growing slowly, but surely, like a seed waiting for its moment to sprout beneath the summer rain. Weeks passed, and Lucas realized his heart had crossed far beyond a passing interest. He thought of Emma even while sitting in boardrooms surrounded by shareholders, even while dining in the most luxurious restaurants. A short, curt text from her could make him laugh like a boy. He knew now this wasn't a game anymore. He truly cared for her. But the deeper he fell, the greater the fear grew. Sooner or later, Emma would learn the truth, that Lucas Vernon was not poor, not unemployed. He was the owner of dozens of projects, the man behind the very galas where she had once scrubbed floors, and worst of all, the bankruptcy was nothing but a foolish test he himself had staged. If she knew, would she ever look at him with those clear, trusting eyes again? Lucas spent many sleepless nights, torn between silence and confession. At last, he decided he would tell her, whatever the cost, because the longer he hid it, the greater the risk of losing her entirely. That afternoon, he asked Emma to meet him at a small cafe near the community center. The place was quiet, the late sunlight slanting across the wooden table, casting her face in a gentle golden glow. Emma held her mug of cocoa, her bright eyes innocent as always. She teased lightly, "Why do you look so tense? Don't tell me you've run out of money for discount noodles again." Lucas swallowed hard, his chest tightening. He wished he could laugh as usual, but his throat constricted. Setting his coffee down, he looked straight into her eyes. "Emma, I need to tell you the truth." Her brows drew together. "That sounds serious." He drew a deep breath. "I'm not poor. I'm not unemployed. The truth is, I'm a millionaire." The room seemed to sink into silence. Emma blinked, thinking he must be joking, but Lucas wasn't smiling. "What?" Her voice caught. "That whole bankruptcy story at the gala. It was just a test. I wanted to know who would stay by my side, not for money." Each word dropped like a stone. Emma sat frozen for a few seconds, then let out a brittle laugh, but it was sharp with bitterness. "So, I was your test?" "No." Lucas shook his head desperately. "You weren't. At least, not like that. It started with Sophie at the gala, but then I met you, and everything changed." "Changed?" Emma cut him off, her eyes blurring. "You pretended to be broke, pretended to be unemployed, so I would believe I'd found a real friend. And now you tell me it was all a facade." Lucas clenched his fists. "Emma, my feelings for you aren't fake. Everything I've felt, everything I've shown you, is real. I was only stupid enough to think I could begin with a lie." Emma stayed silent, her lips trembling. Memories flooded her mind. The cheap supermarket runs, the fried egg dinners, the little text messages. She had believed all that simplicity was real. Now she saw it had been built on a pretense. She shot to her feet, the chair scraping against the floor. "Do you know what I cherished most about you, Lucas? It was the simple truth. I thought you were different from every man I'd ever met. But you're worse. You played a loyalty game with someone's trust. Emma, please listen to me." "Enough." Her voice broke, eyes shining with unshed tears. "I don't even know who you are anymore." She turned away. Her footsteps echoed on the wooden floor, each one stomping on Lucas's chest. He reached out, but didn't dare stop her. The cafe door slammed. Lucas collapsed into his chair, the evening light falling across his exhausted face. His coffee sat untouched, gone cold. This time, the emptiness wasn't staged. This time, he truly understood the meaning of loss. He thought, if this is the price of deception, then this is the heaviest of all the price of losing the one person who had become everything. That night, Lucas sat in his private office, the city's neon glow spilling through the glass, contracts piled high on his desk, but his mind was in chaos. He held his phone, staring at Emma's name on the screen, then sighed. "The boss has never stared at his phone this much," came a female voice from the doorway. Lucas looked up. It was Norah, his longtime secretary. More than that, his trusted confidant. He gestured for her to sit. "Norah, I've messed up. Not a deal this time, is it?" She narrowed her eyes knowingly. Lucas gave a weary smile, then told her everything. The false bankruptcy rumor, the disguise of poverty, meeting Emma, and the disastrous confession that afternoon. Norah was quiet for a long moment before sighing. "You're brilliant in business, Lucas. But in this, you were truly foolish." "I know." Lucas bowed his head. "I only wanted to find someone who didn't see me through my money. But in the end, I turned myself into a liar. She left, and I don't know how to bring her back." Norah studied him, her tone softening. "I don't know much about love. But I know women. They can forgive poverty. They can forgive failure. What's hardest to forgive is dishonesty, especially when it touches trust." Lucas fell silent, her words piercing like needles. "Then what should I do?" His voice was low, fragile in a way it had never been. Norah tilted her head, thinking, then answered, "Don't try to prove yourself with wealth. Prove it by being there. Walk beside her. Listen to her. Do the smallest things with consistency. And most importantly, this time, only the truth. No more tests." Lucas sat still, her words unlocking something inside him. At last, he nodded. Resolve, returning to his eyes. "Thank you, Norah. Maybe it's time I learn how to love without using my wallet." That rainstorm had stolen something from Lucas he never expected. Emma's trust. No matter how many nights he sat in his luxurious apartment, staring out at the glittering city lights, his mind kept circling back to the image of a petite woman in a blue uniform. Sophie had left him when he went broke. Emma left him when she discovered he was rich. The irony cut deeper than any blade. But after talking with Norah, he finally understood. The problem wasn't money. It was deceit. He had turned love into a test. This time, if he wanted to keep Emma, he had to learn a new way to love, not with his wallet, but with his heart. The next day, Lucas went to the community center where Emma taught the children. She still wore her simple uniform, hair tied high, her eyes tired but bright. When she spotted him, Emma froze for a beat, her brows knitting together. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice flat. Lucas lowered his head slightly. like a student admitting his mistake, not to buy you off, not to make excuses, just to lend a hand. Emma stayed silent, ready to refuse, but the children had already burst into cheers upon seeing him. "Hey, it's Mr. ABC Lawyer," they shouted, running toward him. The silly nickname forced a reluctant laugh out of Emma. Finally, she sighed and nodded. "Fine, but you're only an assistant. No showing off. No lectures." "Yes, ma'am," Lucas replied, raising his hand like a soldier. Class began with the alphabet, but Lucas had an idea. He wrote on the board, "Playground law." "All right, kids. Imagine there's just one swing. How do we share it fairly?" "Take turns," a girl shouted. "5 minutes each," a boy added. Lucas nodded and wrote down each rule they came up with. The class buzzed with excitement, laughter filling the room. Emma watched from the side, a strange feeling stirring inside her. Lucas wasn't preaching dull theories. He was turning the law into a game. The children adored it. When class ended, one boy whispered to him shyly, "Mister, will you come back tomorrow?" Lucas ruffled the boy's hair. "If Miss Emma lets me, I will." Emma heard it, but only turned away without a word. Even so, her heart skipped an unfamiliar beat. In the days that followed, Lucas continued to show up, not with roses or luxury watches, but with small, ordinary acts. He carried chairs, wiped the chalkboard, sat cross-legged on the floor, cutting crafts with the kids. One day, he taught them how to debate fairly, splitting into groups to argue whether cats or dogs were cuter. The room erupted with laughter, and Emma shook her head, half amused. "He's insane, but a charming kind of insane." Outside the classroom, Lucas changed. Too, he rarely talked about himself anymore. Instead, he listened. He listened to Emma tell stories of her childhood, how her mother worked as a diner waitress, how she once juggled 3 jobs just to stay afloat. He remembered every detail. One evening, Emma sighed. "I hate cooking instant noodles. They always come out half raw or mushy." Lucas immediately straightened. "Then give me a chance to prove otherwise." The next day, he arrived with a bag full of ingredients: eggs, scallions, sausage. In the tiny community center kitchen, he worked with intense focus, timing every second as if he were signing a multi-million-dollar contract. The result, steaming noodles topped with golden, runny eggs and fresh scallions. Lucas set the bowl proudly in front of her. "Behold the art of instant noodles." Emma tasted it, her eyes widening. "This is actually good." "Then, from now on, I'm the official noodle chef. That title doesn't come with a salary, you know." "I don't need one. Your smile is enough." Emma froze. The words weren't fancy, just quietly sincere, so sincere she couldn't bring herself to meet his eyes. Late that night, after the children had gone, the two of them sat outside the center. The breeze was cool, and the street lamps glowed over the empty courtyard. Lucas popped open 2 sodas, handing one to her. "I don't know how long it'll take for you to trust me again," he said softly, "but I'm willing to be here every day. No grand gifts, no pretty promises, just the truth." Emma took the can but stayed silent, her gaze fixed on the quiet street. Inside, the wall of doubt hadn't crumbled, but cracks had begun to show. Over the past days, she had seen him differently, not as the rich man pretending to be poor, but as someone fumbling, learning how to start over. The following week, Lucas showed up with glue-stained hands. He sat on the floor, making paper kites with the kids, the string constantly tangling. The children roared with laughter. "Mister, you're huge, but so clumsy." Lucas laughed helplessly and turned to Emma. "See, I'm a complete failure in the fine arts industry." Emma doubled over, laughing. But her eyes softened. She realized Lucas didn't care about being mocked as long as it made the children happy. A man who once lived in luxury was now willing to sit on the floor with messy scraps of paper. It touched her more than any gift ever could. One weekend night, Emma passed the community kitchen and spotted Lucas scrubbing dishes. He wore an old apron, sleeves splattered with water, his face scrunched as soap suds clung stubbornly. Something inside her chest softened at the sight. "Hey, who said you could use my apron?" she asked, pretending to scold. Lucas turned, flashing a bright grin. "Just borrowing. Want to sue me? I'll gladly defend myself." "A soapsuits lawyer, huh?" "Exactly. And my defense is, washing dishes is also a form of love." Emma burst into laughter but said no more. Quietly, she picked up a towel and stood beside him, drying plates. Their hands brushed through the foam, lingering for a second too long. Neither pulled away, neither spoke. Lucas never begged for forgiveness outright. Instead, he proved himself in small ways, mopping floors beside her, helping the kids with their studies, sharing a bowl of noodles, no flowery speeches, no lavish presents, just patience. Emma didn't voice it yet, but she was beginning to see it clearly. Behind his clumsy efforts lay a sincerity that couldn't be faked. Rich or poor, this was something real. And perhaps, from these small things, the fragile seed of trust was slowly taking root again in her heart. It all began with a single photograph. That afternoon, Lucas had carried a box of supplies into the community center for Emma. Coincidentally, a passing reporter snapped the moment, a fleeting frame of Lucas Vernon, the millionaire who rarely smiled, looking down at Emma with unmistakable warmth. Within hours, the image was plastered across a tabloid site under the sensational headline, "Millionaire Lucas Vernon secretly involved with a hotel janitor." The gossip spread like wildfire. Online columns speculated about a mismatched love affair, mocking it as a Cinderella story gone wrong. One article sneered, "Perhaps Lucas is seeking a new experience after being dumped by his glamorous fiancée." Emma was stunned. She scrolled through each word, her heartbeat hammering in her ears. At the center, parents whispered in corners, colleagues cast curious glances. That evening, her phone vibrated endlessly anonymous texts, ranging from ridicule to veiled threats to invasive curiosity. She had never felt so exposed, so small. Lucas heard the news during a board meeting. A council member, half joking, remarked, "Mr. Vernon, should the company prepare a press release about your humble love life?" Laughter erupted around the table. Lucas's grip tightened on his pen, but this time, he didn't stay silent. He raised his head, voice cold and steady. "My private life is not a punchline, and no one has the right to turn an innocent woman into a spectacle." The laughter died instantly. Lucas's gaze was so sharp, so unyielding, that no one dared to add another word. The next morning, chaos awaited outside the community center. Dozens of reporters blocked Emma's path, cameras flashing, questions fired like arrows. "Are you really Lucas Vernon's new lover? How long have you known him? Are you using this relationship as a way out of poverty?" Emma froze, panic rising as she stumbled backward. Each question pierced her fragile calm, threatening to shatter what little peace she clung to. Then a tall figure cut through the crowd. Lucas stepped forward, placing himself firmly between her and the wall of cameras. "Enough," his voice rang out. "This is my private matter. Do not drag Emma into it. She is not a public figure. If you want a story, write about me." The reporters buzzed, unsettled. One of them pressed on. "So, you admit the rumor is true?" Lucas looked directly into the nearest camera without a flicker of hesitation. "The only truth I will confirm is this. Emma is not a toy for your amusement. She deserves respect, just like every one of you." The air went still. For a moment, no one dared to ask another question. Lucas took Emma's hand and guided her firmly through the gates, leaving the frustrated flashes of cameras behind. Inside the classroom, Emma still trembled. She turned to him, incredulous. "Why did you do that? You know the press will only dig deeper now." Lucas smiled faintly, though fatigue shadowed his features. "I know. But I also know that if I didn't step in today, you'd be left to face it all alone, and that I could never allow." Emma's breath caught. For the first time in her life, someone had stood between her and the storm, not with empty words, but with undeniable action. Since childhood, she had endured silently when belittled, when overlooked. But here was a man who didn't just claim to care, he had proven it before the entire world. "Lucas." Her voice faltered, thick with unspoken emotion. He simply smiled, his eyes softening. "You don't need to say anything. Just know that this time, I won't walk away." The days that followed were a blur of headlines. Some continued to mock her, others speculated endlessly, but gradually, a shift began. New articles appeared. "Lucas Vernon, a millionaire who defends a worker against the media frenzy." The image of him shielding Emma circulated widely, praised as a true act of a man. Emma read those words, her heart trembling. The sting of past betrayal still lingered, yet she couldn't deny what she saw now. Lucas was changing not through extravagant gifts or hollow promises, but through acts that were courageous, real, and deeply sincere. One evening, Emma asked Lucas to meet her on the rooftop of the center. The night air was cool, scented with the first blossoms of the season. She leaned against the railing, silent for a long moment before finally speaking. "I don't know if I can trust you completely yet," she admitted softly. "But that day, when you stood in front of me, something felt different." Lucas stepped closer, not touching, only gazing out at the same stretch of sky. I'm not asking for instant forgiveness. All I want is for you to know this. This time, I'll protect you, even if the entire world turns its back. Emma turned, meeting his eyes. The arrogance was gone. What remained was a quiet steadiness and a tenderness that made her chest tighten. She pressed her lips together, afraid to let her heart betray her too soon. They stood there in silence, side by side, the city humming faintly below. The distance between them was still there, but so was an invisible thread, fragile yet unbreakable, weaving them slowly back together. That night, as Lucas disappeared into the shadows beyond the gate, Emma remained, watching him go. Fear still lingered in her chest, but so did something new. The unfamiliar comfort of being protected, and deep inside, she knew if Lucas kept proving himself not with wealth, but with courage, then perhaps one day, the broken trust between them might bloom again. The storm of public opinion eventually quieted down. After a few days of frenzy, the media shifted its focus to chase other hot stories. The community center returned to its familiar rhythm, the children's voices echoing as they read, the chalk dust in the air, the sound of laughter ringing down the halls. But for Emma, nothing felt quite the same. She could not forget the image of Lucas standing before the press, shielding her with unwavering resolve. That was not Lucas the millionaire, nor Lucas the man pretending to be poor. It was simply a man of flesh and blood, willing to take every blow so she wouldn't have to. For the first time, Emma asked herself, had she been too harsh, walking away from someone who was clearly trying to change for her? That afternoon, Lucas showed up again. He wasn't wearing a suit, nor was there a driver in sight, just a simple shirt, a relaxed look, and a bag of cookies for the children in his hands. Emma waited until he finished arranging the boxes before quietly calling, "Lucas." He turned, surprised. There was still hesitation in his eyes, as if every word from her might be the final goodbye. Emma drew in a breath, her voice slow but firm. "I am willing to give you another chance." Lucas's eyes lit up instantly, but before he could speak, Emma raised her hand to stop him. "But this time, there will be boundaries, clear ones." "Boundaries?" Lucas frowned slightly. "You must respect my independence. I don't want to be the dependent one or the rescued one. I want the right to choose to stand on my own 2 feet. Lucas listened intently, then nodded. "I promise." Emma held his gaze, then added softly, "And I will try to learn how to trust. I've been deceived too many times in life, and what happened with you only made me more afraid. But if I keep doubting forever, we'll never get anywhere." A faint smile tugged at Lucas's lips, as though a great weight had been lifted. He extended his hand. "Then let's start over. As 2 ordinary people." Emma looked at that hand for a moment before placing hers into his. It was warm, steady, not too tight, not too loose, just right enough to make her feel safe. The days that followed were truly a time when they began to learn how to love. Just as they had promised, Lucas no longer appeared as the dazzling millionaire. He helped Emma arrange classrooms, move desks, even wash chalkboard rags. One time, when Emma had to rush home for a family matter, Lucas stepped into the class himself and taught the kids how to draft a fair contract by turning candy trades into a game. Emma, in return, tried to trust more. When Lucas offered to drive her home in his car, she hesitated but nodded. When he spoke about a major project, she didn't guard herself anymore. She listened, asked questions, and even gave thoughtful suggestions. Lucas realized with surprise that Emma wasn't just the cheerful janitor. She was sharp, logical, smarter than some of his partners at the table. One weekend evening, they went shopping at the little street market. Lucas insisted on carrying the basket while Emma carefully chose vegetables. The vendor laughed and teased, "What a lovely young couple you are." Emma's cheeks flushed red while Lucas chuckled lightly. "Thank you. I'll take that blessing in advance." Emma elbowed him playfully, but warmth spread through her chest. Simple moments like this convinced her that love didn't require yachts or mansions, just 2 people standing side by side, smiling as they bought a bunch of spinach together. Back at Emma's small apartment, they cooked. Lucas was no longer the helpless man in the kitchen. He had learned to fry eggs without burning them, to season instant noodles just right. Emma sat at the table, chin resting in her palm, watching him bustle around. "I used to think you only knew how to order fancy dinners," she teased. "And now you know I can also cook a 20-minute meal with eggs and noodles," Lucas replied with a grin. "And I'm happy about that." Emma looked at him, and the thought arose unbidden. Perhaps between us, there is no longer the distance of wealth or poverty, only 2 people learning to love as equals Still, things weren't always smooth. Sometimes, Emma worried aloud, "Are you sure we can work? Your world and mine are too different." Each time, Lucas would simply answer with calm conviction, "Differences mean we have more to learn, and I'm willing to learn as long as I learn with you." The words soothed her every time, dissolving her fears little by little. One late evening, after classes ended, they sat together on the steps of the center. The night was still, the yellow glow of the lamps casting soft halos around them. Lucas handed Emma a soda can, just like he had since the first day they met. "You know," Emma murmured, eyes fixed on the distance, "I used to think I'd never trust a rich man, but you've shown me. Maybe what matters isn't whether you're rich or poor. It's whether you see me as your equal." Lucas turned to her, a gentle smile in his eyes. "And you've shown me that love doesn't need a bank account." They clinked their soda cans together, a tiny clink, soft but brimming with meaning. That night, as Lucas drove away, Emma stood at the gate, watching the taillights fade into the distance. For the first time in years, she felt she wasn't alone. And for both of them, it was clear they were no longer standing in two separate worlds. They were on the same road now, slowly but surely moving toward each other. Late autumn had settled in, a crisp chill slipping through the little apartment windows. That evening, after finishing her late class, Emma trudged home, tired yet oddly at peace. She pushed the door open and froze. The familiar room glowed with warm yellow light. But tonight, it wasn't silent. On the tiny dining table sat a steaming bowl of instant noodles, a fried egg with golden edges, and 2 cans of chilled soda waiting side by side. "Lucas," she whispered. He stepped out of the kitchen, not in a tailored suit, not wearing a luxury watch, just a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His expression carried a flicker of nervous tension, so unlike his usual air of confidence. "Welcome home," he said softly. "I prepared a little surprise." Emma set her bag down, her heart stirring at the sight before her. But before she could ask anything, Lucas walked closer. His gaze was steady, filled with something vast and weighty. Then he dropped to one knee. From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. The light caught on the simple ring inside, not the glittering diamonds of grand proposals, but something far more humble. Lucas drew in a breath, his deep voice trembling ever so slightly. "Emma, I can't promise you castles. I can't promise to buy you the world. But I promise this. My whole life, I'll make noodles with you, fry eggs with you, drink soda with you, and laugh with you, through the simplest of days." Emma's throat tightened. Her eyes blurred as she looked at the man who once stood dazzling in the spotlight. The man she had once hated for his lies, now kneeling on the floor of her small apartment, offering her a ring wrapped in simplicity. "You," Emma laughed through her tears. "Lucas, you're insane." "Insane, maybe." Lucas smiled. "But honest, will you say yes?" Emma nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks, her lips curving into the brightest smile. "Yes, yes, I will." Lucas slipped the ring onto her finger. There were no fireworks, no violins, only the thumping of hearts and the delicious aroma of instant noodles filling the room. And yet, it was the most beautiful moment Emma had ever lived. Their wedding followed not long after. It wasn't a lavish affair in a castle or 5-star hotel. Instead, it was held in the courtyard of the community center. The children blew up balloons, neighbors strung ribbons across the walls, and friends brought pots of flowers from their own gardens. Emma wore a simple cream-colored dress, nothing extravagant, but radiant nonetheless. Lucas stood beside her in a light suit, his gaze never leaving her for a heartbeat. When the pastor asked, "Do you vow to remain with her in every circumstance, in wealth and in poverty, in sickness and in health, until the very end of your days?" Lucas squeezed Emma's hand firmly and answered, without hesitation, "I do." When it was Emma's turn, her voice trembled, yet carried unwavering strength. "I do as well." Applause erupted. Children shouted gleefully, tossing confetti made from torn newspaper scraps. Friends, colleagues, and neighbors beamed with joy. There were no grand fireworks, only ripples of laughter in the warmth of community. The wedding feast was simple, yet brimming with cheer. The main course, a deluxe version of instant noodles cooked by Lucas himself, this time with eggs, greens, and slices of sausage. Guests ate and laughed, teasing. Never seen a wedding where the specialty dish is instant noodles. Lucas only shrugged, his eyes sparkling as he glanced at Emma. "But to me, it's the finest meal of all. Because I made it with my wife." Emma's face flushed, and laughter rang all around them. As the celebration drew to a close, The golden afternoon light spilled across the courtyard. Emma stood with Lucas, their hands entwined, her heart overflowing with happiness. She thought back to everything. The day he appeared as a poor man, her anger when she uncovered his truth, and the countless moments her heart had stirred despite reason. Lucas had once been the abandoned man, left behind when poor, mistrusted when rich, but today, he was no longer alone. He had found a love that was true, not bound by money, not adorned with grandeur, but woven from pure sincerity. Emma whispered in his ear, "You know, I never thought instant noodles could become a symbol of love." Lucas chuckled, pulling her closer. "That's because, from now on, it's our wedding dish." That night, back in their little apartment, Emma hung her wedding dress by the rack while Lucas draped his suit jacket over a chair. They sat cross-legged on the floor, soda cans in hand, tapping them together with a soft clink, a quiet vow for the days to come. No extravagance, no noise, just two people, two hearts, and a love both simple and enduring. Once a man abandoned in ruin, Lucas had now become the man who found true love, because he had learned how to love without a wallet. And Emma had proven that happiness does not spring from splendor, but from companionship and understanding. And so, in their story, it was a bowl of noodles, a fried egg, and a simple promise that wrote the love of a lifetime